On in here. Come on in here, villagers. Let's get this work in on tonight. Hopefully you have had yourself a great day. Hopefully this Hump Day Wednesday was beautiful for you. If you're out there, come on. Let us know who's out there. Who goes there? That's what we need to know. We need to know who goes there. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, we need to know who goes there. Make known yourself, good people. All right, I'm going to slide this down because I don't know who sings this song, who did the remix, and I don't want to have to be mad at someone who don't even know me. You know what I'm saying? The people who know me, I have a right, like Red Hands, y'all know, they know me. We know them, okay? And so if I get flagged because of one of their songs, we're going to have a problem. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to get in contact with Kyrie or somebody, be like, yo, y'all need to give us the okay to play your music on our show. You understand what I'm saying? So again, welcome to the Marriage Village. We are so glad to have you with us on tonight. If you are on again, please let us know by leaving a message in the comments field. You know, now the question on the floor, the question of the day, and the question of the moment is, how are you doing?
How in the world are you doing?
How are you doing? We need to know how you're doing. We hope that you're doing well. We hope that you have behaved yourself on today. You know, because sometimes you can entertain some foolishness that you ain't got no business entertaining. And you know, every now and again, you can get yourself in a tizzy, as they would say. But we hope today was tizzy free. You know what I'm saying?
That's hilarious.
Yeah, Doc. We hope today was tizzy free and stress free and all that kind of good stuff. So while we're waiting on the people to come on, the question to you is, how are you doing?
I am great. I am great. All is well. No complaints. Yeah, today I was a little bit tired after work, so I tried to take a nap. It didn't quite work out for me. I kind of went out and then came back in. But
okay.
Yeah, I mean, I feel good. I feel great. So, yep, kind of boring. No action really. But anyway,
that's what's up.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. My day was pretty fantastic. I got to teach some kids today at FCA. That is the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and it was amazing. We had fun. God certainly did his thing. We thank God for every opportunity and every door that he continues to open for us and give us the ability to share the gospel of Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? So it was great. Work was great. Was able to get a little bit of work done on today, accomplished my end of year type stuff. Hopefully I can have end of year sealed up by next week. And then we'll start the new year.
What's next?
Absolutely. So that is how my day has been. I guess we're just gonna be out here solo on today, and that is cool.
That's all right. Nobody knows we solo unless you tell them.
Well, I'm just saying, you know how I do. I like to take shots when I can. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I definitely see that.
We're gonna let the Saints know where y'all at, player. You know what I'm saying? So let's go and get into this conversation.
Yes.
What are we going to be talking about on tonight?
So tonight we are talking about the 12, and basically we always talk about, like issues or things that can be helpful in relationship, in marriage. So whether it's dating relationship, whether it's marriage, whether it is a work relationship, we talk about things that are helpful.
Okay.
And so today we are looking at though romantic relationships, the 12, so solutions for relationship issues. And this
Okay.
was it's kind of adapted from an article that I read online. I was kind of looking through it, and I'm going to give the name of it. And we always provide the information, if we're pulling from a source, we'll put it in the chat for you all.
No doubt.
But this was adapted from 30 Common Relationship Problems and Solutions by Jeannie Sistma. And so we just picked 12. We just picked 12 of these. Some of these may sound familiar, but just have a little bit of a different spin on them. It may be a
Yeah.
little different than how we
Okay.
normally present it. So yeah, because basically what we are looking to do is strengthen relationships. And a lot of times, and we'll get there, but we'll get
No,
in
come
it.
on.
But
Just a lot of
a lot of times
times.
people don't talk about what's really going on in the relationship. We don't talk, or there's, yeah, like this unspoken rule that you just kind of go with whatever, you deal with whatever is given to you or whatever's presented. And that's not true. You have the right in your relationship on either side of it to say what you need.
Absolutely. I think sometimes people are uncomfortable. I think people are uncomfortable talking about their issues and their struggles because to them that signifies that there's something wrong and that they're broken. And you don't have to be broken, and there's not necessarily something that has to be wrong when you're trying to better yourself as a whole.
Correct.
I was talking to some of the people that I was doing FCA with on today, our good friends Caleb and Taylor, and we were talking about just how sometimes in church people, like if you go to a church where you're taught on love or some of the attributes of relationships, that automatically signifies that you're great in relationship. But then when people call you on the carpet, and this is a point that I made, when people call you on the carpet and say, "Okay, give me a scripture about marriage that you haven't heard quoted at a wedding," can't do it. Give us a scripture on love that isn't taught all the time. Love is patient, love is kind. Everybody knows that. We've been learning that
Or
since we
for
were
God so loved
5.
the world.
Yeah, we've been learning this stuff since we were 5 years old. Give us a scripture on love that you weren't taught when you were a kid, where you literally have to do the work, and you can't do it. So that means that in this particular area of life, and this particular uh, uh, what am I trying to say? This particular conversation, you have no knowledge or wisdom, but you consider yourself as a
Love expert.
as an expert or a scholar. And the thing is, it's like, okay, you don't necessarily always have to be in a bad place in your marriage to seek to be in a better place at all times. That's just something that you should want to do. You know what I'm saying? You should, and not just in your marriage relationship or your intimate relationship, but in relationships across the board. You should want to be a great friend. You should want to be a great brother, sister, aunt, uncle, niece, nephew, whatever the case may be, whatever you are, you should want to be the greatest at being that. And sometimes it takes time to study, to gain knowledge, information, and wisdom about a particular area that you have not necessarily been great at. And that's okay. You shouldn't feel bad about loving being around other people in marriage and relationship and learning to be better in certain regards. Because guess what? As long as you're married and as long as you're doing a relationship with someone, you're going to have a moment where there's a disagreement or where you don't see eye to eye on something.
Right. And that doesn't make the relationship bad. It doesn't make you a bad person. It just means there's an area that needs work.
Absolutely. And you should be wanting to do the work regardless of if there's a problem or not. You should want to do work that makes you better and makes your relationships better. Period.
Yeah. And then, oh, yeah, no, we'll get there. Because I was going to say, when you talked about relationship experts or whatever, a lot of times, just as a sidebar, A lot of times people feel like you have to be perfect in your relationship or in your marriage to speak on relationships. What do you think about that? What do you say to that?
I don't think you have to be perfect. I think you have to be trying to be better though.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? Because you're bound to have a moment where you're not your best.
correct.
You're bound to have a moment where you are struggling in the area of relationship, and that's okay. But are you working on it? Are you trying to be better? Are you trying to get the information so that you can be better at what you're doing in that particular regard? Because if you're not, then you're living a lot of real estate on the table.
Yeah, a lot of people. Okay, so a lot of people say, "Well, I don't need to come to the Marriage Village conferences, or I don't need the Marriage Village because my relationship, my marriage is strong." There's always something that maybe the marriage isn't struggling, but there's always something that we are facing as a husband or as a wife, that we can be better at. And so I say I call trash on that.
Well, okay, let's just say for argument's sake,
Uh-huh.
you are in a good relationship.
Yeah,
Okay, who have you discipled? Who have you
that
poured
part.
into? Who have you helped be better in the relationship category? And if you haven't helped somebody be better and you're only keeping your great relationship to yourself, what is that?
Selfish.
What good is it? You know what I'm saying?
It's
Because
selfish.
if someone is not benefiting from your wisdom, then your wisdom is selfish wisdom because you're the only one that gets to entertain it.
Correct.
So, I digress.
So with that, let's just jump in then to relationship issue number one. I'm posting as we talk, just for people that come in, we can run them back for them.
Okay.
But the first thing is, the first issue that we're going to talk about tonight is being overwhelmed and having a lack of support, in your marriage or in your relationship. That is a problem. It's an issue, and it's something that needs to be discussed. And so I'm going to just kind of read from the write up, and then we'll kind of play off of that. But she talks about when life is getting too much and you get overwhelmed. It could be a promotion at work, dealing with your kids and their issues,
Mhm.
juggling regular work and then a ministry schedule.
Okay.
But for whatever reason, your relationship starts to take a back seat because you're overwhelmed with other things. And then the relationship problems start building because you're not talking.
Uh-huh.
You're not talking. Tyrone in the house.
What's up, Tyweezy?
So you're not talking, but you need to be talking. So that the problem is the overwhelm, and then the solution is talking about what's happening and about what kind of support each other needs, right? Because the bottom line is, if you don't ask for help or you don't ask for support, the answer is no, because you didn't ask, not because the person is saying no, but you're putting yourself in a no, in the no zone, NO zone, because you didn't open your mouth.
The question that you have to ask yourself is, am I paying attention to the signs? Because nine times out of 10, the signs are there. If you're paying attention, the signs are there. And if the signs are there, that means that we need to have a conversation on level setting and getting back to where we need to be. Because you always know when your relationship is not flowing and operating the way it normally should, or the way it normally does. And if you're seeing things that are catching your attention or popping out to you, then that's when you need to sit down and say, okay, let's talk about this, because I know you got these things going on, and I acknowledge that I see them impacting you. What can I do to help?
And so I think, and you can tell me, I love that you said paying attention for whichever, the other spouse. But I think that a lot of times we put that burden on the other person. Like, if I'm overwhelmed, I should be using my words to say that. I shouldn't just expect you to know.
Yeah.
However, when I say my words, I do expect you to show up in some kind of way to assist.
I think that both are necessary, in the sense of, okay, what if you are so emotional in that particular place you can't articulate it? So okay, just because you can't articulate it, now the conversation or the relationship halts because of it. No, I think the other person carries equal responsibility of paying attention, because what I'm saying is in the area of, if there is a problem, a glaring problem, right? And or you've been working a lot, and I can tell you're short-tempered, you're set off quickly, you don't spend time, you're always doing all this other stuff. It's my responsibility to say, hey, I'm over here and I need some of that attention too.
Right.
And I noticed that you've not been the nicest as of late, and I know you got a lot going on. So let's talk about that. How are you really feeling? How are you really dealing with all the things that you have going on right now?
So that comes into also being mindful of the person you're in relationship with. I know we have several friends that have one of the spouses is a stay-at-home, whether it's the mom or the dad. One, they stay at home with the kids all day. Well, you think just because somebody's staying at home all day with kids that's not stressful. You don't know what goes into a day of being home alone all day with children. And don't throw trying to work uh in addition to that. Like, so they may be, I know we have some friends that they work from home, but they also have kids at home, in the time that they're working. And
So
it's a lot.
2 jobs.
Yeah, they're working 2 jobs, and that can be overwhelming. And so
absolutely,
my thoughts are just, I can voice that. Like, if that were me, I can voice that, right? But do you have any responsibility as my husband? Like you just said, you said, if you can see that I'm being short-tempered or stressed out or whatever, or even just saying, hey, you know what, babe, I know you've been home with these kids. Well, let me rub your feet. You may not be a feet person, whatever it is, right?
What if it's not just always around kids? It can be just you are not yourself, and you're not showing up the best that you could. That's a conversation.
Yeah.
And somebody needs to be paying attention to it so that it can get addressed. Hey, again, if you're on tonight, thank you so much for coming on. We are talking about the 12 solutions for relationship issues. Okay, we are currently on number 1, and the question is down at the bottom. So this is the thing, like when you find yourself in a place where you're overwhelmed, like let's just put it on each person. Like if I'm overwhelmed, I need to get to the place where I can articulate that I'm overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
That's my responsibility. It's my responsibility to tell you, hey man, I got a lot going on right now, and I know, I probably haven't been myself, and I apologize because I might have been snapping off and I might have been a little short with you or whatever. But I think that is like where it becomes our responsibility to make sure that we're appropriately communicating with one another and caring about one another enough in that regard to show up a different way. Mm-hmm. Don't always show up expecting the person to make adjustments, or you get agitated because they're not doing it the way you do it. First of all, they ain't you. They're not going to do it the way you do it. So get over yourself, right?
Right. So again, the solution is talking about what's happening and what kind of support each of you needs.
Yeah.
Then unspoken. So here's another good point. Unspoken and unfulfilled needs lead to negative beliefs about your relationship. When there's a void or an unspoken need or an unfulfilled need, it can lead to negative thoughts or beliefs about the relationship. So you got to talk about this stuff, because the other thing is, if you don't use your words, that person never knows what you're feeling. They don't understand what you're experiencing, because you're not sharing. So the last nugget that she gives is lean on each other instead of getting so caught up in the other issues that they drive a wedge between the two of you. All right. So that goes back to that together time. When you are overwhelmed with whatever, sometimes you have to cut that thing out or cut it down or shut it down and put your focus back inward on the relationship.
All right. Let's go.
So number 2. Oh, all right. Wait a minute. We got some comments on the floor. Let's take it. It just takes communication from both. Have an honest dialogue about the solution. But as a man, it's a little harder because we are leaders.
Well, I think because we are leaders, we should shoulder the responsibility to have the conversations. That's how I lead in my home. like, because my wife typically she ain't gonna say nothing too much unless it's like sort of bothering her. So I'm the one that's like, nah, before it becomes an irritant, I'm gonna say something. Let's deal with it
Mm-hmm.
because that's my personality. So I think we can be better that way because when you love somebody, you just show up a certain way, right? And I believe that when you show up a certain way, that you take responsibility of helping the relationship get in a good space. All right. So if I know my wife is going to shut down or something, oh, guess who's setting up the marriage counseling? I am. Guess who's reaching out to the parents? I am. Guess who's going to make sure that it happens? I am. Why? Because I care. You know what I'm saying? And I want for our relationship to stay and to be in a good place, right? What's going on, Kenosis community? Good
What's
to see
up,
y'all.
family? Love y'all.
Elias, love you guys. But I think, like, I do agree, Tyrone. It is normally harder for guys to communicate that way, but I think we have to start now putting the responsibility on men to show up a certain way. Let's show up a certain way. Let's stop letting the women show us up in the area of leading in our home. Like, come on. Like, it's our responsibility to be the leader in our home, period.
Thanks. All right, issue number 2. Let's move on. And tonight again, we're talking about the 12, and then we're talking about relationship issues and solutions, right? We don't want to just talk about issues. We want to talk about solutions.
Absolutely.
So number 2 is the lack of a lack of trust. That is the issue. So the issue is lack of trust, and then the solution is be consistent and trustworthy. Do what you say and be where you say, right? And so I'm gonna go into. You can chime in on that out because I know you.
Well, I think what we should probably do is give the problem, discuss it, and then
The
what I'm saying,
solution.
give the solution.
Okay, so break it up a little bit.
Yeah. So
let's stick on lack of trust. Let's go.
All right. So lack of trust typically happens over time, or unless a person has been in a traumatic relationship, or relationships, you know, um, that can cause a person to not trust just across the board, right? But I think when there's a lack of trust, there's a reason why that lack of trust is there.
Right.
And when you're confronted, if you're the person who is not being found trustworthy, then I think what you need to do is don't get so mad that the person is pointing out that they can't trust you, but look into the reason why they can't trust you. Let's see if they have a valid reason for not trusting you.
Yeah, and lack of trust is not always, and this is another highlight from the article, lack of trust isn't always surrounded or based out of, or it doesn't always come out of infidelity.
Yeah.
Lack of trust can come again from not keeping your word.
In the small things. Like small things matter. Like small things are what accumulate to big things.
Correct.
When the word says it's the small foxes that destroy the vine. You have to understand it's those little things that you do over time that causes problems. But what are those little things? Are you paying attention to those little things? Like, that's the question you got to ask yourself. All right, am I paying attention to the little things that can lead to someone not trusting me?
Right. And 9 times out of 10, the person that you're in the relationship with is going to tell you, this makes me uncomfortable, or I don't like it when this happens. And if they are saying that and you continue to shake and move in that way, then we need to figure out what's going on there as well.
Well, I just think that we need to just have a level of care and concern on what's being said, regardless of how it makes us feel, and regardless of if we agree with it or not. Because some people will take issue because they don't agree. Okay, well, if you haven't did your homework to see why the person feels the way they feel, you're not justified in just having an attitude and trying to shut it down. You're not justified there. And you don't have a reason. First of all, let me say this. You don't have the right to do that.
Okay.
You don't.
Lean in.
Because, first of all right, you can't tell me how I feel unless you're me.
This is true.
You can't tell me how you are showing up, which is affecting me and how that's making me feel. You don't have the right to do that, and no, neither do I. Because what you do have the right to do is sit there and listen and make sure you understand why I feel the way I feel. Why I'm saying, because if I'm saying I can't trust you, that's a problem.
Yeah. Especially in a marriage, because that's the rest of your life, you know. And nobody wants to be in a relationship with somebody for the rest of their life that they cannot trust.
And Tyrone says, as you point those things out, the person tends to get on the defensive. That's not fair. That's what I'm saying. Like, before you start copping attitudes and getting mad and all this other stuff, can we take the time to see if there's some truth to it?
Right. Because honestly, nobody sees, okay, so I don't see myself as a person that isn't trustworthy. But if something I'm doing is creating an issue or an insecurity in the area of trust for Joe, then I have to at least hear it. And that used to be I was Tyrone, I was her. I was that her who you're describing right there.
My bad.
The getting on the defensive. No, it's there. Getting on the defensive. Because I know that I'm not doing anything that merits breaking trust, right? I know where I'm going. I know what I'm doing. I know who I'm with and who I'm not. But at the same time, I don't know what's going on over here, what thoughts are happening, or what else is happening.
Okay, so let's go here.
Come on,
all right,
let's go.
If you know where you're doing, but you haven't communicated, you're going to be late. You haven't communicated, I'm going to be here. You haven't communicated that I'm going to have my phone off, and then this person is trying to call you and all these other things. Yeah, you know where you are. They don't.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if there's a pattern set that this person is trying to call you, text you, just to check and see what's going on, because you said, especially when you said you're going to be at a certain place at a certain time or be doing a certain thing, and they can't get in contact with you, quite naturally, that's going to make somebody not trust you. Or if it's happened consistently, it's going to make them not trust you.
Yeah, and so again, I mean, that is true. In addition, so I won't say in addition. So to support that, and to support what you're saying and to build that trust, part of the solution is being consistent and trustworthy, building that up. But a lot of times when you are consistent as a person, like you're consistent, then your behavior can be tracked. A lot of people don't like that. They're like, I'm married, I don't want to be tracked. Right? But you actually sign up to be tracked when you get married. You did. That's just it. That's it.
Oh man, if you're that person, don't be that person. Okay? Because this is the thing. Again, okay, let's just say the foundation was set and the person told you they've been cheated on. And yeah, they're over it. But sometimes if actions look familiar to a thing that led to cheating, that can make a person what's the word I'm looking for?
Their antennas can go up there.
Yeah.
I don't know,
yeah.
I don't know the actual word, but
yeah, that'll work. But so now they're on high alert because the last time this happened to me, a person was not being trusted. You cannot be the same person. You're just carrying out some of the same acts that remind that person that they were scarred. And then now they're like, okay, but you could have just called, you could have just texted, you could have did any of these things. Mm-hmm. And that would have resolved my feelings and my emotions right then and there.
Yeah, so each person should definitely, and it's right here in my little notes, each person should make an effort to be where they say they're going to be, and just do what you say you're going to do. Call when you say you're going to call, and then overall, never lie to the person that you are in the relationship with. You don't start in with the lying. And I know I used to hear people say, well, it's just a little white lie. A lie is a lie, whether it's a little white one or a big black one, it's still a lie and it's still an untruth. The other thing, we got to learn to show empathy and respect for that
Oh,
person's feelings.
what's that word called again?
Empathy.
Empathy.
We have to do that because at any given moment, the tables could turn and something sensitive to you could be, could be on the table. If you're the person that's acting in, defensively or lacking empathy, just remember that at any given moment, the tables could shift and it'd be right in the place in front of you.
So if you're showing up in real love, your love should cast away fear. It should eliminate fear. It should take fear away. Like, I communicate the way I communicate with my wife because I don't want her to worry about anything. I don't want her to question anything, especially when it comes to the opposite sex. Some people would say I'm a little bit over the top. So what? That's what works for me. She didn't ask me to do this. This is something that my love says, this is how I'm going to show up. This is how I'm going to make sure I take any question marks away. Why do we get mad when people tell us they don't trust us instead of being more concerned with the fact that they don't trust us? Why are you mad like that? I don't get that. Why are you mad when somebody, first of all, is communicating to you where they are? And then number two, you have a responsibility to make sure that you take those question marks away, but you get mad at them for being honest and telling you the truth.
And I think it's just a frustration because, again, if you know your character, and you know that you're not doing anything to break trust, it's kind of like, well, why can't you see that I'm not that? Or why can't you see that that's not my heart? Or that that's not my intention? So there's a frustration that comes. And I'm not saying that is right, but I'm just speaking from, out of my own experience. It can be just a frustration with, why is this even here when I didn't, I'm not doing anything and I didn't do anything to start this. So why am I, and I don't even say why am I paying for it, but
people don't, but what I'm saying is people 9 times out of 10, I think this is another thing that we need to stop doing. We need to stop, or okay, if a person has told you they've been cheated on, just because they've been cheated on don't mean that they're viewing you through the lens of their cheat. If there's something that you're doing and you're doing it, it's not the person that cheated on them. It's you. It's your actions.
Right. But it goes back to what you said, though, because you just said a few minutes ago that I could be doing something that is the same as whoever else that you were with. And just in general, I'm just saying in general could be doing something that is the same thing that they did, like the same action, but it ain't the same.
But okay, if you're not picking up your phone, it don't make a difference if you did it, they did it. If a person, if that can say to a person, something's not right. I don't feel comfortable with that. If your spouse is calling you 50 times or calling you a lot and you consistently don't answer your phone,
that sounds like an emergency.
That's not, no. What I'm saying is if they're calling you, if they call you consistently and you don't answer your phone, that don't have nothing to do with their situation. That has to do with you not answering your phone. So stop adding stuff onto stuff and see it. This is what you did. You're not paying for somebody else's stuff. This is what you did.
Right.
You didn't pick up your phone.
That. I didn't pick up my phone, but at the same time, for that person who's on the other end of that, they're being triggered by the fact that that's not always happened. It's not always, but a lot of times it is, because sometimes it's just a frustration of, I'm your spouse, I'm calling you, why aren't you answering? And then other times it can be connected to, well, the last time, and like I said, I'm just pointing back to what you said a little bit ago. Mm-hmm. The last time I was in this situation, these were the signs that these signs look similar. It may not be happening, but it led to it over here. So my antennas are up over here.
But that's what questions are for. Questions are for clear answers. When you give clear answers, then that should resolve any wrong thought about what you're doing. So if a person says, hey, why are you not answering my phone call? the response shouldn't be, why are you even asking me that?
No, that should not be.
What?
No, there should be an answer to why I'm not answering my
That's
phone.
what I'm saying.
Correct.
Like, no, don't get mad at the person when they're asking you questions to resolve what may be going on with them internally.
And that's fair. You absolutely can't get mad at somebody for asking questions
Yeah.
to bring resolution. That's ridiculous. Tyrone says, what happens when the person comes back with, I'm grown, I need boundaries, etc., etc.
I mean, but this is what you signed up for. You signed up to be in a relationship that requires
accountability.
So you don't get to just pick and choose when and how you're going to show up in a marriage relationship.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? Because if you do, it will pose problems.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? It will pose problems for you. Okay.
All right. So number 3, the problem or the issue, poor communication. Poor communication. And so we talk about this, probably overkill with communication. You can never communicate too much in a relationship.
I think you should just make a practice of over communicating. Yeah. I just do. Like, it might get on somebody's nerve, but they'll learn to appreciate it when you're over communicating.
So poor communication leads to misunderstandings, fights, frustration.
Yes.
It also leads to one or both of you feeling unheard and invalidated, and can quickly turn into resentment. So, all right. So if I'm invalidated or feeling invalidated, that means that I don't feel that my voice, my point, my feelings, anything about me in this relationship is valid.
Okay.
And so that can end up turning into resentment if I continually, or one party continues to feel like they're not valid or valued, then it will turn into resentment, and it will turn into an issue in that marriage or in that relationship.
I agree with that.
And so the solution, did you want to say anything else? So the solution is actually communicating. It is a skill to be learned. In the Marriage Village Conference, we do an assessment or an activity, and it is a communication styles assessment. Why? Because you need to know how you communicate, and then you need to know how the person in your relationship communicates, and then how can those two things, how can you work together in that? Because a lot of times we say, well, if they don't communicate like me, they're never going to understand. Again, for the people in the back, communication is a skill to be learned.
You can't, but you can't say, it's not fair to say they're not going to learn. That's so, oh man, that's not cool. Don't say that, because again, you don't know what that person can learn, and you don't know what the circumstance of communication is going to produce. So communicate so that the person can learn. If you communicate clearly, the person will pick it up, hopefully.
And so when we are learning our communication styles and learning how to walk through that, those, especially the uncomfortable conversations, we got to learn how to listen without judging, without interrupting, and then learn how to get our point across without attacking. So again, listening without judging or interrupting, and then getting your point across without attacking. We say it all the time. The problem is the problem, not the person that you're in relationship with.
Absolutely.
Right? Or whatever. The issue is the issue, however you want to say it. But we got to learn how to listen, again, without judging, putting our own spin on it. Right? Interrupting, my God, because I am an interjector like no other.
Oh, Jesus.
And then also to get your point across without attacking. You don't have to bite someone to get them to understand where you're coming from. And then the last thing, the good point that she pulls out in the article is you got to communicate as friends and not combatants.
Yeah, that's good. I like that. I think that's a problem. I think that's the problem with most people in relationships where it goes south, is because you're being combative. Being very combative.
For the jugular.
And you'll never get resolved being combative. You'll never get resolved being in a battle. Like you're in fight mode all the time. We're in the bed, almost sleep. You in fight mode. I ask you a question. you being combative, you big man, got big attitude. Like, no. Why? First of all, why is
So
it?
where does that come from?
Where does that combativeness?
Yeah, where does that come from? What do you think?
I think sometimes when you haven't resolved certain things in your person as a person, it causes you to be combative.
I'll take it.
You know, if like for example, if you haven't resolved the issue from your youth where you felt like you were never heard, that don't have nothing to do with your spouse, but it will show up in the relationship because you feel like you gotta always fight and battle and war to be heard. And it's like, no, you don't have to be battle. I'll listen. Just say what you need to say and stop fighting me along the way. If you throwing punches and now you want me to talk, no, you just punched me. I don't feel like talking now. You know what I'm saying? Like if your words are that direct and that damaging, that's a you problem and not a them problem. It is. Because again, like if I say, hey babe, what's wrong with you? What you mean what's wrong with me? What's wrong with you?
Ooh.
I mean, how can we gain resolve when that's your response?
You can't.
You know what I'm saying? So it's going to be hard for us to have a conversation. It's going to be hard for us to get a resolve or communicate well because of how you're handling your side of the communication, and it's causing the person to not want to engage.
Yeah. So you have to figure out two things. You need to figure out your communication style and how compatible it is with the person you're with. And then you need to assess the situation and figure out what communication style is needed for that conversation.
No doubt.
Right? Because sometimes you just need to directly, it's a direct hit, right? It's red. You just got to go after it, go get in there, get it out, get it over with, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But then there are times that known as the yellow communication style times, where you got to finesse it a little bit. You can't just go in there with your knife and cut something up. You literally have to package it in a way to gently deliver it.
Yeah.
Right. So again, knowing the styles of your person that you're with and figuring out how to work together in those things, but then also knowing what style, is needed for the conversation that's on the table. And that could look different from time. And if you got to research communication methods or ways to address and approach difficult conversations, that's good work.
Yeah.
That's good work to do. That's good work to do. All right. Issue number 4. Did you have anything else on that before we move on?
No.
Okay. Not prioritizing each other.
That's a problem.
So it's a 2 for 1 on this. So it's 1 for A is not prioritizing each other. And then for B is changing priorities without communicating the change.
Oh.
So let's start with not prioritizing each other. So it's easy to take each other for granted, especially when you have a lot of things going on, or if you've been together for a long time. All right. So she says that's her take on it. That's the writer's take on that. That it's easy to start taking each other for granted when you have a lot of things going on, or you've been together a long time. And I would agree. I would agree with her on that. What do you say?
I agree. I think, but that's not an excuse.
No, we're not going in for excuses.
And oh man, I just think that our culture and how we handle relationship is just terrible. It's just backwards. And we don't care. We care about we put everything else in front of the relationship, and you expect a person to believe that you actually love them when everyone else is more important. They have to fight for your attention at every turn. Why? My question to the room would be, why are you even in a relationship? Why are you even married if everybody else and everything else is more important than your spouse? And you prioritize everything in front of them.
Mm.
And you don't tell them nothing. I just don't understand how you think you can be in a great relationship and do that kind of stuff. And then have an attitude with people when they start calling you on your stuff. I just don't understand that. It's like, okay, you get up, you're on your phone, you're in Facebook, doing all this other stuff, right? Then I don't know, you just it's like at every turn you're sending signals that you want to be by yourself. And then if a person starts to just interpret, okay, you want to be by yourself, let you be by yourself then. Because who wants to be in a relationship with someone that doesn't prioritize them? Correct. Nobody wants to be in that relationship. And I think if we start to operate in self what's the word? Grace thinking towards people, put yourself in the other person's shoe. Would you like for that person, or if you don't care, then I just think you need to figure yourself out. I really do. I do.
Yeah, and so to the point, excuse me, to the writer's point, again, we are taking, this is adapted from the lesson 30 common relationship issues. It was an article that I stumbled across, and I'm like, oh, let's pull some nuggets from these, from this, and kind of talk through it and put our little spin on it. And so she talks about having a lot of things going on, and sometimes it is what you're saying. In addition, it could be just that there's, by nature of the life that you're in, just a lot of things going on. So you have to carve out time to make that, you have to make it important. You have to make it a priority. Sometimes people have been together for a long time, 20, 30 years, and it just, I don't know, it's just, it gets kind of monotonous, the relationship, and you could get bored. And so you're like, well, maybe I'll just throw myself into all these projects.
There's that word. Oh my God.
When I say bored, I'm like, of the routine, the same, go to work, come home, make dinner. What I mean by that is that you need to throw something else in there, add something else to the relationship so that it doesn't stale out. You don't think that's a legitimate thing, that people get bored?
I think people get bored. I do. But I think we don't spend enough time asking, why do you get bored? Like, it can't be because of the other person. It can't always be because of the other person.
No, and I think boredom, okay, so for me, when I say I'm bored or the boredom comes in, it's because I'm literally doing the same routine every day. And I just want to spice it up or do something different on a particular day. So for example, if just say my routine is get up, go work out, come home. Get up, go work out, go to work, come home, lay around, make dinner, go to bed, right? Doing that same routine every day, after a certain time, I'm going to need something exciting, because that becomes boring. Not the person, but that pattern of life. I need some spontaneity here and there. So again, when I say bored, I mean something probably different than maybe what you're speaking of, but
I just think the word bored I remember the kids used to be like, I'm bored. Find something to do. It's like, I just think a lot of times as adults, we're still undeveloped. I just do. I think, like, because for me, I build certain things in. Like, I just think you have to get to the place where you're building things in. And you're building it in for the sake of just staying in a healthy place.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like using words.
You don't like that bored word.
No, because to me it's like, you should never be bored when you have control over what you do. I just, to me, that is like the lamest word to use in the vocab. in the dictionary. Bored. And especially if you're a grown adult, like I don't know. I guess, like I think when people start paying attention to the rhyme and reason for things, it will it will change how they word certain things.
Yeah, I can go with that.
Yeah.
I do say bored a lot though, so I'm gonna have to work on that.
I don't hear you saying it, so
I mean, I
thank
haven't
God.
said it in a while. I mean, yeah, because right now the bored is the last thing that our life is right now.
Bored should, to me, this is just my own personal opinion. Bored should never come out of grown adults' mouth.
What?
It shouldn't. And the reason why I say that is because you have control over what you do. Like a kid don't always have control over everything that they do, right? But an adult has control over what they do. So because you have control over what you do, if you're bored because you're not doing something.
Well,
That's what I'm saying.
I'll let you. I won't.
Come back. I want you to say something back because it does like what I'm saying is you have control of your
bored or
day.
not.
Yeah. So for a grown adult to sit there and say, I'm bored, I'm just telling you, don't say it around me.
Oh Lord.
Because I'm gonna be like, well, go do something then, because you have the ability to do something.
So basically, the solution that's given for that not prioritizing or changing. Okay, so let's hit changing priorities, because over time, all of our priorities are going to change, right? You may be prioritizing one thing at the beginning of the marriage, and then as you move along, something else becomes the priority. We just need to talk when we're changing lanes. If something is no longer on the top of the list, I need to say that. Let me see if I can give an example. So maybe, and I'm just going to say something that couples would need to talk through. So if you start off your marriage and you all have this big dream of, buying this home in this place, and that, so we'll just use that as a goal, buying a home in a specific place. But then as time goes on, one of you realizes that's probably not really what you want anymore. You need to speak about that. You need to talk about that, especially if money is being saved, plans are being made, going in a direction. And that's not to say that you're going to get what you desire, but you need to at least have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, so the solution is making time for each other every single day. When not prioritizing is an issue or changing priorities, when you make time for each other every single day, if you're in a marriage, every day, carve out 10 or 15 minutes just to check in, to catch up, to make it important, make that important, so that time is, and make that time protected. That's what I was gonna say. Make it a protected time where, nope, I'm not taking any phone calls. I'm not gonna be on my phone. I'm putting my phone down. Matter of fact, I'm not gonna be scrolling. I'm going to be fully present in the conversation. And it may be longer than that, but I'm just saying, if you're just kind of getting into this and having some trouble with starting, 10 or 15 minutes every day, just to have a meaningful conversation. How was your day? Oh, it was all right. Nope, that's not good enough. I need details, right? On both sides. Come into the world, come into each other's world outside of your world, so that you can kind of, you feel more valued and more of a priority when that is happening. And then if you're changing, if priorities have changed, if things aren't important to you anymore that used to be, it's not as important, then we need to be talking about that. Right now, some things just are, by sheer nature of a marriage, you don't get to say that's not important anymore. Right? You don't get to do that. But there are some other things, like where we want to retire to. That's something we can talk about. That's not something that has to be, just because we said it in the beginning, we're going to retire to San Diego, we have to, or it's going to be a major meltdown if we don't.
Yeah,
it's a conversation.
Compromise is always in order.
And then I know sometimes I hear this a lot too. I'm going to just go here for a second. People, you hear people say, well, we just grew apart. We're growing apart. You're responsible for that.
I just think this culture is so ridiculous. Like, because some of this stuff, man, it's like making comments. Like when people say, I fell out of love. Why? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
why? How did that even happen? I don't know. Like sometimes when I think about some of the stuff that I've heard said, we've sat in sessions with people and heard them say it. It came out of their mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking in the back of my mind, like, wow, this is a poor excuse for love. And you certainly don't know the Lord. You can't. The word says if a man doesn't love, he does not know God, and the love of God is not in him. I think a lot of people think they love God, and I think they love, but they really don't know God and they really don't love, because when you make comments like that, you cannot know God and make a comment like that. You can't.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I fell out of love when the Bible clearly says that love never fails. So you failed, love didn't. You got in your flesh and walked away from the spirit. I've been saying this. I've been saying this a lot lately.
Oh Lord.
And it
One
is,
thing.
we're praying for things that we need to
Yeah.
obey for.
Correct.
Stop praying and asking and obey the will of God. Obey the scriptures. Like when people say, well, like for example, when people say they got a divorce, but there was no infidelity, there was no abuse or anything like that, and a person say, well, why did they get divorced? I say because they disobeyed the word of God. If you just obey the word of God, a lot of stuff that you would just come up with out of your flesh will get shut down by just obeying the word of God. I'm just saying.
I mean, it's true.
You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry I hijacked that one, but it just when you said that, it
struck a nerve.
It just makes it saddens my heart to hear believers make comments like that.
Yeah. You grew out of love. Like,
what? How is that possible?
Especially when we should be growing more and more in love. Now, again, challenges are coming. The challenges will be present. They will present themselves in your marriage, in your relationship. However, as my husband also says all the time, love shows up when there's a problem.
I mean, the way God has just been undoing things in my life and showing me the right way, sometimes I want to cry just thinking about the way I have acted and been in years past. Man, yeah.
All right, we'll move on. We're gonna do two more. We'll probably get, because we got 5 and 6, and then we'll do part 2 next week for the rest of them, if that's okay. All right, so number 5, the issue. What is the issue? Lack of appreciation. Lack of appreciation. And so here's a quote: "Bad bosses compel good workers to quit." Not because of the position itself, but because of the boss who never expressed appreciation. That was one of the biggest things when I worked for Nationwide in Columbus. That was something that they took very seriously: staff appreciation, employee appreciation. Because, as the quote says, being taken for granted is one of the major reasons for breakups, not just in the workplace, but in a marriage, in relationship. When you don't feel like you're appreciated, it's like, what am I even here for? Nobody wants to be taken advantage of.
Yeah, It's
You just want to feel appreciation. I mean, you don't have to, not even going overboard. It's not always about gifts and things like that, but we'll get into what it actually looks like. But go ahead. I don't want to jump on you.
Nah, I just think that like the one before this one, number 4, just prioritizing. I think when you prioritize appreciating someone, then that appreciation will come out naturally when you prioritize it. I want you to feel appreciated. I want you to feel loved. I want you to feel nurtured and cared for. And I prioritize that. Um, so I think just making sure that you do it, just keeping it in the forefront of your mind and of your heart to make sure that it happens.
Yeah, and okay, so the solution literally is showing appreciation because it keeps a person motivated and in some cases committed. Now, I'm not talking about committed like versus stepping out.
Mhm.
Now, unfortunately, we've seen where people have felt unappreciated and they get the attention from external sources, and then we already know where that goes. But I'm talking about committed to doing my side of the work. I need to do it anyway. But when I feel appreciated, it makes the committing even easier, right? To whatever it is that we have decided that we're going to do together. If I feel like you appreciate it, then I have joy in doing that. But sometimes if I feel like, and I'm just going to take cooking dinner, just say, if I don't feel like you appreciate it, then it takes the steam out of me wanting to do it because I'm like, you don't care one way or the other.
I okay. I understand where you're coming from. But I think you said the key word, and the key word is commitment. Like you should commit. All right, so when you're committed, it means you don't give yourself an out because something's not happening, right? So I think when you commit and let's say appreciation isn't happening, then the conversation happens. I don't feel appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
I think when you care to communicate, when you care to have that conversation appropriately, then an appropriate response has the ability to come out or to come forth.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah.
All right. So, what are some ways to show appreciation? Um, Giving a compliment. And ladies, that doesn't just mean we sit back and take all the compliments. We need to give some as well. Notice when they do things basically taking notice, right? When they do things that you like, if your spouse does something that you like, say thank you, right? A lot of it's kind of like, I don't know, it just seems like sometimes I've heard couples say after they get to a certain point, the courtesy, the gratitude, all that goes out the window. It's like we don't need to do that anymore. And that is not true.
See, that's it. Okay. I'm gonna be quiet because when people talk like that, it just annoys me. It's like, I mean, really, that's that's your resolve.
That is, and I've heard it. That's why I'm like, we need to come out here and just kind of shed some light on things. Thank you never gets old. I don't care how old, or I mean, how long you've been in a relationship. Saying thank you is still an okay
It's
thing
just
to
a common courtesy.
do.
That is so, oh man. Okay.
All right, let's go with the last one. So for today, the last one we'll hit on is keeping a scoreboard, like keeping record of wrong. And I know this is one of your hot topics, but when you keep blaming and recalling each other's mistakes, you're literally keeping a scoreboard of the fault of each other's faults. And so the quote is, if being right is more important than being with the other person, the relationship is doomed.
No doubt. No doubt.
All right, because you
No
have what's
doubt.
building up is anger, guilt, frustration, bitterness, and that's not going to solve any of the issues that are on the table. So again, the solution to that, keeping a scoreboard, is dealing with each problem separately unless they are legitimately connected.
Yeah.
All right. So a lot of times, my husband, I'm putting him on. See, he does this to me. Now it's my turn to do it to him.
Come on.
A lot of times he will bring up something we'll be talking about one thing and he will reference something else. And I'm like, don't bring that up because that's not a part of this conversation. But his response is, there's a connection because it's a pattern, right? If something is a pattern, then it's okay to bring that up in the conversation. Yep. What is not okay to do is we're talking about the fish fry and you're bringing up the shoe shopping. No. Unless there's a legitimate connection, we shouldn't be bringing up old issues or adding issues in to deal with and tackle things. Focus on the immediate problem,
please,
and respectfully speak your mind. Again, don't let it build up and then mention it months later. Deal with things immediately whenever possible.
Yeah.
Don't allow it to brew. So I'm going to put that in here. And number 7 is your favorite word. That we'll start with that one next week. The word you just said no adult should ever say. That was number 7.
Oh my God.
But we'll stop at 6 this week with these because we're at our time. But
yeah, and your boy is tired.
You over here yawning. Shake yourself.
I'm over here sucking wind.
Shake yourself.
In the village, they didn't show up today.
Okay,
y'all suckers.
We're gonna talk about this offline about him openly rebuking when we had a technical difficulty on Monday. So the village was in the house. They were ready probably on Monday.
No, y'all know. Listen, now I'm playing. I get it. Sometimes it's just people have their schedules, and I get that. So I'm just playing people.
And we actually bumped up against one of our village family schedules tonight. They come on Wednesdays.
We saw
fam. Sorry, fam. We had to get on here because we can't let a week go by. We just can't do that.
Yeah.
So we'll be back next Monday at our regularly scheduled time.
Yeah.
But just a quick recap, we are talking about the 12, and the 12 are the issues, and then the solutions for relationship issues. So we talked about number 1, overwhelm and lack of support. The solution is talk about what's happening and what kind of support you need. Number 2 was lack of trust, right? So the solution, be consistent and trustworthy. Do what you say, be where you say. All right. Number 3, poor communication. And then the solution for that is over communication. It's a learned skill to communicate. Just because you're talking doesn't mean you're communicating.
Say what you need.
That's for another week. Number 4, issue, not prioritizing each other or changing priorities, without communicating it. The solution, make time for each other every single day to talk. Carve out that time, make it protected time that is valued, that you don't let anybody take away from. And then if there is a change in your priorities, you all need to talk about that, no matter how uncomfortable it might be. Number 5, lack of appreciation is the issue. And the solution is learn how to give a compliment, learn how to say thank you. Appreciation will keep your person and keep you motivated in the committed relationship. And then the last one was keeping a scoreboard or keeping record of wrong or constantly blaming and pulling other issues in when you're dealing with an issue. The solution, deal with the issue at hand. Deal with your problems separately unless they are legitimately connected. All right, so that's where we are for tonight. What are you doing? What in the world is happening here? I don't know. That's for y'all, by the way. That is for the village. I don't know what's happening right here, but that is not for me. That is not for here. That is for you.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Y'all might come through next week.
They will. I have faith. Yeah. All right, family. Well, we love you all. Thank you for tagging in tonight, just hanging out with us.
Yeah.
If you're watching the playback
tonight, that was cool. I'm sorry.
Yes. Help, Lord. Be intentional. This one over here needs an intentional nap.
I do.
We love you guys. We'll see you all on Monday. Again, thanks for rocking with us tonight.
Love y'all.
Love you.